business. Joining me now for a conversation about disruptive innovation is Douglas Kruger, a business coach, published author of 5 books, and a multi-award-winning speaker. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Alan.
Right, and here are all your books. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's true. I have verified this. It's the truth.
The ever-growing pile.
And this is your latest one here. They're your rules, break them. 50 ways to smash silos, bust bureaucracy, and create a high-performance culture. So what's this about?
Well, the heart and soul of this one is saying that sometimes the results matter more than the way things have traditionally been done. The first reaction people tend to have to the title, "They're Your Rules, Break Them," is a bit of shock and horror because it sounds like an anarchy sort of effort going on here, and it really isn't. I interpret the idea of rules quite broadly. I look at the way we inherit baggage from the past about the way things are done. I look at literal rules that can be tinkered with safely, and I look at things like conventions and human ways of thinking. And I ask the question, where can we find strategic advantage in breaking them? The principles are fairly simple, but when you amplify them up and scale them up, you end up with the Elon Musks of the world. So the results can be quite radical.
So there's 2 parts of this that I want to go down. So the one is the concept of what is breaking rules out of a lack of discipline, okay? I.e. my staff there's a process, they break the process. Versus breaking the rules to create a better result. Breaking the rules doesn't necessarily create a better result.
No, absolutely. And in fact, the final chapter in this book is titled, "They're Not Your Rules, Don't Break Them." And I look specifically at, you mentioned the word morality, and that's exactly what it is. I talk about people who will, usually in a sports car or a high-end luxury car, park in a disabled spot and say, well, I'm just going to be quick. That's not your rule. You don't get to break that one. But even within the supposedly immoral rule breaking within an organization, there is sometimes some gold to be found if we can reserve our judgment on it. And it's hard because our emotional reaction to a staff member or a team member breaking the rules tends to be instant judgment. And 9 times out of 10, we're right. But sometimes if we can reserve judgment and zoom back and say, why are they trying to break this rule? Is there a goal that they're trying to achieve? Are they trying to get something done faster? Are they in fact trying to serve our customer and our own internal rules are getting in the way? Sometimes when we look at that, we can actually find better ways of doing things. In fact, we can go one step further than that. We can ask ourselves, which rules are our customers trying to break? And that, to my mind, is one of the most valuable things of all, because it indicates to us the number of barriers and obstacles and hurdles that we have created. They're our rules that are getting in the way of our customers giving us money.
So I want to park that. I think it's a very important discussion piece. I think it's Microsoft, if my memory serves me correctly, that talks about innovation within the box. And what they said was the fact that when you create innovation outside the context of let's call it the boundaries of the business in terms of its resources, its desires, etc., the ideas the rules that you are breaking have less opportunity to actually create change than when they are within the boundaries of the organization, because then resources can be attributed to them in order to create the change required.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
Talk to me about that comment, how you respond to that.
It's a dangerous game to play in the sense that there's always going to be disruptive change. And I mean, the research, as you know, tends to show that disruptive change comes more often from the outside of an industry than from the inside. Yeah. And a worst case scenario, you could end up like a Kodak, where you are so focused on film that you simply will not acknowledge the potential superiority of digital, which is still in its infancy. And because you cling to the old, you simply will not see the new. But from a branding perspective, and I suspect this might be what you're touching on, there is a different reality going on there. You maybe don't want to tinker with the strength of your brand story. And I do give a couple of examples in the book of organizations that saw that problem and decided to innovate outside of their own reality, but do it under a different name and a different brand. And it can very well happen that the new upstart then overtakes and renders redundant the old company. But rather you're the one owning that than somebody else does it to you. So there's a great danger in someone else doing that.
Let's come back to the comment you made about your customers breaking the rules, and how that's more valuable, because That to me feels like it's rich with information.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Give us some great examples.
Well, I mean, the one that springs to mind for me, I was at an embassy once, and I sat in the front row, and there I am with my ID book and all my pieces of paper and a sandwich, because, you know, abandon all hope ye who enter here. And I watched 10 people in a row, including myself, be told that you can't just bring your ID, you need a photocopy. And then each person in turn said, can I get a photocopy? And they said, no, you have to go to the store around the corner. And they had about half an hour until they closed, and they only operated on a Tuesday. Now, to my mind, when you're sitting there watching the same problem unfold over and over and over again, you have an opportunity for innovation. And I mean, the gut reaction to this, and it's a very small way of thinking, is, well, we can't afford a photocopier. If you were charging 50 cents a time, the numbers that I saw going through it, you would make a profit on those photocopies. I had to ship some books overseas the other day, and I filled out the same form 4 times. And I mean, it's a long form, in-depth information the whole trip. It's wasting my time and making me resistant to using them again in future. The 4th time that I had to fill out their form was when the courier arrived at my door, and it was in the morning. I just showered. I had to run from the shower outside to the front gate, and I had to run back and forth to my office getting the information they needed. Now, that's just patently absurd. In a world where we have digital and the capacity to duplicate information like that, failing to bank the win of digital is absolutely absurd, making people work harder than they need to give you their money. They have trained me not to use their services in future.
Let's change tack now to the whole concept of, we speak about this kind of radical transformation, but radical innovation, where we've got all the likes of the disruptors like Uber, and you know, the Singularity University talks about how all these things are going to completely disrupt the way we work, the way that businesses operate, and the working patterns of entrepreneurs and staff. But there is a counter message around the fact that that everyone is looking for this big disruptor, but there is an opportunity for smaller levels of disruption within the business that actually are more realistic for a small business.
Absolutely.
And easier to manage.
And some cost absolutely nothing. I mean, let's just say, for example, that you are the manager of a chain of hotels. The wrong way to look at your room is to walk in with your checklist and to think like the owner of a business. If you do that, you're going to say, well, TV's on standby, check, bed is made, check, hairdryer is where it should be, check, and you're going to walk out of that room having learned nothing about it or about your business. To really see where the opportunities are to innovate. And again, they're cheap, they cost nothing. Spend the night in the room and live through the experience that your customer has. You'll get into bed, sure, the TV is off, but there's a little blinking red standby light. And even with your eyes closed, you can't get a good night's sleep. It's like the Rio Carnival going by. And you might find that, yes, the hairdryer is where it should be, but it's tethered to the wall and there's no mirror there. You have to do an awkward dance and use the mirror on the other side of the room. And it's by living through the experience of what you do that you see these opportunities. And groups like Virgin Atlantic are particularly good at this one. I can recall an advert on the radio, it must have been 2-3 years ago now, that opened with the line, don't you hate the fact that you have to pay for your plane tickets in full before you can apply for your visa to go overseas? And what they then did is they said, if you don't get your visa, we will fully refund your ticket. We're the only airline that does it. And I thought the genius of that is that they've thought not just about the experience of using them, but even prior to that. What's the whole thing that customers go through in order to achieve that goal? And they found a way to solve a problem that exists prior to the encounter with their brand. Now that's absolute genius. And it costs them absolutely nothing. It's just understanding what your clientele go through, caring enough.
That's a good place to end. Douglas Kruger, thanks so much for being on the show.
Only a pleasure.